A new day starts. You begin it filled with hopes, plans, good intentions, and willful thoughts. And, before you could even notice, you find yourself self-deprecating, procrastinating, fighting over petty things in your relationships, jealous of other people, unable to finish what you started and feeling down. However, you can't even record what triggered you to start acting like that. It's as if an unconscious force took over the control. Yes, that's precisely what happened. Tucked in the secret chambers of the psyche lies our personal underworld, a realm Carl Jung famously termed the shadow. Like the flickering shapes we see at the edge of the campfire's glow, these invisible aspects of ourselves whisper and scheme beyond the limits of ordinary awareness. We might walk confidently through life, convinced we are in full control, yet just beneath the surface, a quieter dance of hidden motives and repressed desires spins on. This is the domain of the unconscious, where the unseen layers of your being carry unhealed wounds, unexamined impulses, and latent potential. In Jungian psychology, the shadow is not an evil beast. It is a reservoir containing all that the conscious ego has deemed unworthy or unacceptable. As children, we learn certain behaviors earn praise, while others bring punishment or ridicule. Some desires or traits get tucked away and become obscure fragments, swirling about in the darkness of our psychic cellar. Unaddressed, these fragments may infiltrate our words, choices, and attitudes without our direct consent. Picture a marionette operated by invisible strings. That is often how the shadow makes us behave. To unearth the shadows, many people find themselves facing perplexing patterns, an incessant need to sabotage good opportunities, a burst of irrational envy toward a close friend, or a compulsion to repeat the very habits they vow to quit. These acting out moments can feel alien, as if another personality has hijacked the wheel. Indeed, from the Jungian viewpoint, the unconscious is populated with subpersonalities, archetypal energies, complexes, and instincts that jockey for influence. Among them, the shadow is both your hidden adversary and, paradoxically, your ally in growth. Imagine standing at the threshold of an ancient, labyrinthine library. The books in the well-lit rooms contain your conscious memories. The dusty shelves in the far corners house your relegated fantasies, half-forgotten pains, and unacknowledged flaws. Each time you muster courage to walk deeper, you discover volumes that reveal your hidden nature. Some hold unsettling narratives, like stories of longing, resentment, or fear. Yet others bristle with unclaimed talents, passions you once disowned, and the raw creative force that can propel you into new horizons. According to Jung, shadow work is the delicate art of reintegrating these lost or exiled parts of ourselves. By retrieving them from the mental attic, we liberate energies that had been locked away. Instead of living at the mercy of unconscious drives, we gradually reclaim the keys to our psychic kingdom. But to do so, we must first concede that we are not simply an immaculate ego making all decisions. The shadow also has its hands on the wheel. Yet admitting the shadow's reality can be unsettling. People often prefer to paint themselves as morally upright and rational, ignoring the chaotic undercurrents. In that willful ignorance, we project onto others what we cannot accept within ourselves. Perhaps you accuse a coworker of arrogance, never noticing that you harbor suppressed grandiosity. Or you judge a friend's irresponsibility, blind to your own covert longing to shirk obligations. By noticing our reactions and biases, we can detect where the shadow is lurking. It peeks out when we find fault in everyone else, never suspecting the reflection might be ours. The question arises, how do I begin the journey of facing this unseen presence? Jungians suggest active imagination, a method where you quietly engage your inner images and voices. Sit with a journal or meditation cushion. Let your mind conjure the emotional shapes that disturb you. Perhaps you see an image of your younger self, acting out in ways you struggle to own. You might hold a dialogue, asking that aspect, "What do you need? Why do you behave like this?" Though you might feel silly at first, keep going. The psyche replies in symbols, and as you gently unpack those symbols, you unravel the shadow's secrets. If that seems too abstract, consider more tangible steps. Pay attention to triggers, those moments when your emotional reaction far outweighs the present circumstance. Rage over a small slight, disproportionate jealousy, or a flare of shame at a trivial event could signal a complex is activated. Where there's a sudden storm, the shadow is near. In these instances, adopt the stance of an internal observer. What did I feel? What memory or fear emerged behind the scenes? Each emotional tempest, though painful, is also a treasure map pointing you toward hidden pieces of your psychic puzzle. In the broader landscape of depth psychology, we discover that repetitive negative cycles often serve a deeper function, although unconscious. For instance, a persistent pattern of self-sabotage could reflect an internal loyalty to old wounds, like an inner vow never to surpass the achievements of a critical parent, or a guilt-laden reluctance to outshine siblings. While this might sound counterintuitive, the unconscious is not logical in the ego's sense. It follows its own symbolic language, forging unspoken pacts to guard us from perceived threats or betrayals. Thus, shadow work means calmly exposing these hidden pacts to the light of reason and self-compassion. When we speak of accountability, it does not mean harshly blaming ourselves for every failing. Rather, it invites us to see how we have played along with our unconscious scripts, whether from fear, ignorance, or habit. A sense of gentle curiosity can help. If you notice you endlessly procrastinate on a creative project, step back and ask, what might I fear if I actually complete this? Do I dread criticism, success, or something else? The shadow's motives may surface, a fear of stepping into power, an unspoken longing for someone else to rescue you, or even a cynical desire to prove that life is stacked against you. By naming these hidden angles, we dilute their hold. In Jungian analysis, one concept frequently referenced is the gold in the shadow. This is the idea that not only negative traits are banished into the underworld, we can also exile bright qualities and untapped strengths. A person taught early on to be modest might push away ambition or self-confidence. A naturally nurturing soul may suppress that warmth if they fear it leads to vulnerability. Over time, these exiled gifts can morph into frustration or cynicism. Reclaiming them releases a flood of creative energy once bound up in denial. Crucially, shadow integration cannot happen overnight. We peel back layers, only to find more intricate webs beneath. You might calm one destructive habit, only to watch an entirely different quirk surface. This is natural. Jung likened the psyche to a living ecosystem. Once you alter one segment, the rest of the system reconfigures. The journey demands patience and a willingness to be in dialogue with your inner world, even when it reveals disquieting truths. For those feeling the weight of unresolved issues, therapy or in-depth study of Jungian thought can be immensely helpful. A therapist trained in depth psychology can serve as a mirror, reflecting back the patterns you might be blind to and offering a safe container for exploring them. Still, there is no substitute for your own intentional practice of self-reflection, journaling, or creative expression. Tools such as dream analysis, active imagination, or even symbolic artwork can help you move beyond surface words to uncover the archetypal energies fueling your conflicts. As you persist, a remarkable shift often occurs in daily living. Conflict becomes less about, "they're making me miserable," and more about, what is stirring inside me that seeks resolution? You gradually stop reacting blindly to triggers and, instead, probe inward for the roots. This fosters a sense of personal agency, an antidote to the helplessness that often accompanies self-destructive cycles. No longer at war with hidden parts, you engage them with curiosity, forging a new unity within. Yet shadow work is not just about introspection. It also bridges you to a deeper sense of purpose and belonging. By letting your repressed qualities step forward, you align more authentically with who you are, flaws, talents, everything. You discover resources of resilience, creativity, and compassion that come from having faced your own darkness. In Jung's language, you inch toward individuation, the lifelong unfolding of a unique personality in harmony with the collective. Consider the moment you catch yourself replaying a negative pattern. Perhaps you are about to lash out at a loved one over something trivial, or retreat into a paralyzing sense of worthlessness. This time, you pause, noticing that old impulse. A quiet question arises: which part of me is behind this reaction? If you can name it, like, this is the resentful child in me, or this is the anxious persona I adopted in high school, you have already reclaimed some power. Instead of going along with the script, you hold space for it, acknowledging, I see you, I get why you're upset, but I don't need to act it out blindly. That pause is the difference between being a pawn of your unconscious and becoming an active participant in your own growth. Jung believed that the very darkness we flee from holds the seeds of transformation. So the next time you feel haunted by the question, who is truly pulling my strings? Remember that the answer might be a disowned corner of your own psyche. Far from being a curse, the shadow is an invitation to retrieve lost essence. Each time you engage it, you illuminate the labyrinth within, forging a more cohesive identity. Painful though it may be, it leads to a deeper capacity to love and to create. Over time, you find new intimacy with life. You might even develop a sense of humor about your quirks and complexes, a softness toward others wrestling with their own hidden parts. You realize that wholeness includes the shadow. In that recognition, you move beyond judgment into a compassionate acceptance of the full spectrum of human nature. Thus, confronting your shadow is far from a one-time event. It is a gentle unraveling of illusions that continues as long as you remain willing to see more. Each breakthrough opens fresh questions. Each revelation births a deeper insight. Yet with each step, you claim more of your human inheritance, the radiance of a consciousness that can hold both darkness and light. Freed from the tyranny of invisible motives, you evolve into a truer version of yourself, ready to walk in the world with clarity, courage, and compassion.